Hello, and welcome to SoE TV, that's School of Education TV. I'm your host, Dawn Crim, Associate Dean for External Relations in the School of Education, and today I am joined by Emeritus Dean Chuck Read. Chuck, thank you for being here today.
You're very welcome.
So I asked Chuck Read to be with me on the School of Ed YouTube channel because you're doing some remarkable things on campus. Not to mention a 43-year history with the UW-Madison campus, 10 years as the Dean of the School of Education from 1995 to 2005. Since then, what have you been doing?
Well, since retirement, I would say Project One is that Helen and I have been going to visit our grandchildren. We have 5.
Oh, wow.
They all happen to be on the East Coast right now, so we get to visit them in one trip.
Okay.
That's the most fun.
All right.
But we also like to take bike trips. We've always loved bicycle touring, and most recently we went on a bike and barge trip on the Seine in France from Paris southeast.
Wow.
So that was a beautiful trip last year.
Okay, that's great. So with the bike paths here in Dane County, I mean, they've been expanding. Were you one of those faculty members that bike to work each day?
I did bike to work in good weather. I'm not one of the people who bikes in the winter.
Okay.
But I love to bike to work, and I still do bike into campus in good weather when I can.
Okay. Well, I understand for the last few years you have been leading a leadership seminar here on the UW-Madison campus titled the Joe Kauffman Seminar. And I had an opportunity to take that seminar in 2004-2005, which was actually Joe Kauffman's final year teaching the seminar. Can you talk a little bit about that seminar and a little bit about Professor Kauffman?
Sure. Joe Kauffman was a remarkable person, as you know, Dawn, from having been in the seminar with him. He was an expert on higher education leadership and was in our Department of Educational Administration, now known as Educational Leadership and Policy Analysis. Mm-hmm. He was a professor, but in addition to that, he was a mentor and a counselor to chancellors here on campus, including David Ward and John Wiley and Donna Shalala, and also to President Catherine Lyle,
okay.
President of the UW system. He was at one time president of Rhode Island College in Providence. He participated in all kinds of searches for campus leaders, not just here, but he was consulted at other universities. He was just an expert on higher education leadership.
Okay.
And as far as the seminar is concerned, he had what I think was one of those really good insights, which is basically that at a certain stage in the career of university administrators, as they gain broader responsibilities, they need to start thinking about the entire institution. Mm-hmm. Everybody's used to focusing on what's on their desk.
Yep.
And the issues in their unit. But at a certain point, you become responsible for interacting with people all over campus, as you know from your career. And Joe's insight was that at that point, if not sooner, people need to start thinking about the history and the culture and the governance and the scope, the structure of the entire institution. So in the Kauffman Seminar, we bring together people from all over campus. I think of them as up-and-coming leaders
okay.
on campus. They may be faculty, they may be academic staff, classified staff who have supervisory responsibilities, and we talk about those issues. We try to talk about current issues in higher education, and in every session, as you know from your experience, we have a guest, a presenter who is a leader on campus. It might be the chancellor, the provost, or a vice chancellor, or a dean. But as well, it's people who maybe are in a little less visible
Okay.
leadership positions, but who are distinguished leaders. For example, Sue Reisling, who's the chief of police here.
Yep.
There's a person who's a really articulate and thoughtful leader. Everybody on campus knows that. And so besides the very top leadership positions, we have people from slightly less visible positions. Talk about who they are, how they feel about working in this university, what they see as the challenges that we're confronting, what they find rewarding in their jobs, why they really want to do university leadership, especially in a place like this.
Yep.
And then we'll often, after our guest and a little coffee break, we'll often discuss issues that they've raised, or maybe other issues, including national issues in higher education, like, say, MOOCs, the massive open online courses we talked about this morning.
Okay. You know, I recall when I was in the seminar 2004-2005, we had an opportunity to look at some of the challenges facing UW-Madison, and from a town and gown standpoint, we were talking about what type of relationships should the university have with its surrounding community. And so at that time, Lamar Billups, who was the then special assistant to the chancellor and director of community relations, came in and talked about Halloween. Halloween had become more and more challenging for the city of Madison, and the university at its height had something like 100,000 people coming in for Halloween weekend, and had ended badly. But he talked about the types of conversations that campus officials, Chief Reisling, with the City of Madison Police Chief, the Mayor's office, as well as Lamar himself, really strategizing along with the Dean of Students to talk about what's the best way to sort of bring that event under control. And I remember of the 25 or so of us in the class, many of us hadn't really thought about those types of issues and how campus would relate to them and deal with them working with our outside partners, because many of us were so campus-centric, really unit-centric or school or college-centric. And so I, as a young leader on campus, really valued having the opportunity to go through that seminar and hear how decisions are made by campus leadership and who's in the room to make those types of decisions. Thinking about this year and your taking over the seminar, what are some of the hot topics, if you will, that you all are discussing around how the participants will think about themselves as leaders?
Well, the one that always comes to people's mind first, the budget, is maybe in some ways not the most burning issue.
Okay.
Because what we've found as we talk with campus leaders is that the budget is what it is, and you try to find revenue sources to supplement it. You try to become as efficient as you possibly can, you know. But what you don't hear is people simply moaning about the budget.
Okay.
I think our campus leaders realize that doesn't do any good. One that energizes people, I think, today is educational innovation.
Okay.
You know, interim Chancellor Ward, when he was here, made a real effort to get the campus talking about how we could participate in educational innovation. We've done quite a bit of administrative redevelopment, rethinking, as you know.
Yep.
But the next step, in a way, is to think about how we deploy our educational resources best, especially given the opportunities of better technology and reaching people not only on campus but all over the world through the web and so on. And yet, the models we have so far the MOOCs, the massive online open courses, it's not entirely clear that the models we have so far are sustainable.
Correct.
So the university, I think wisely, has been getting into this in a careful way. As you know, we have 4 MOOCs this year.
Yep.
Some that have been conducted and some that are yet to start. And I think we're going to learn from that experience, and I think people are very interested to see how that goes. What does it cost in time, in resources? Whom does it benefit? Does it show promise of meeting our students' needs and our alumni's needs? Is it a massive expansion of the Wisconsin idea?
Right.
And most of all, can we sustain it?
Well, what's been exciting about the massive open online courses was the School of Education actually deployed one, Video Games and Learning, in which we had about 30,000 students sign up, and we had a 42% completion rate.
Wow.
And that's among one of the highest completion rates of a massive online open course. And so what's nice about it is the campus is doing some due diligence, really evaluating what about it in that course had people's attention, caused them to stay for the duration, and how do we then replicate the courses that we put online to have that level of completion rate. So we're able to do some analysis among the 4 courses that we've deployed, and as you know, campus is looking very closely, because if this is something that we want to do going forward, how do we sustain it? How do we continue to pay for the production of those courses, and is it worthwhile? Is it really reaching the audiences we'd hoped?
Yeah.
So talk about, I imagine people probably needed a definition of education innovation. Kind of what does that mean for our campus? Did you all start in that area in the course, or did you just kind of launch in some examples?
Well, our speakers have been talking about various forms of educational innovation, a lot of it. Some of it directed to how to ensure that students are able to enroll in the courses that are right for them. This was a fundamental insight of Donna Shalala's when she was chancellor, that you can offer the best courses in the world, but if you can't place students in the ones that are right for them,
right,
you're wasting educational resources and you're wasting their time. Maybe. There's a delicate balance here between giving students an array of opportunities and letting them explore, and at the same time making efficient use of the educational resources.
Okay. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit away from education innovation and talk about, in the Kauffman series, it's set up for preparation of what the next level of leadership needs to know on the campus about the state, about the campus, about the budget system, and a kind of a wide landscape of higher education. And thinking about taking over the seminar and leading it, what, as a former dean of the School of Education and someone with linguistics expertise, what was it that you wanted to bring to the seminar that was germane to how Chuck Read thinks?
Well, the first thing you have to do in becoming the leader of the Kauffman seminar is remember a little humility, because Joe Kauffman was known nationally as a leader in higher education and an expert on these issues. I was, in addition to being dean of the School of Education here, I was at one point associate dean and for a year and a half interim dean of the graduate school, which is a campus-wide institution. And one thing I always feel it's important for our seminar participants to think about is the interaction between teaching and research at a place like this. As you know, the School of Education, for one, has an extraordinary array of research. We are just most unusual in the amount of support we win for our research in education, the recognition that we get for it. But as a dean and as a leader, I think you have to be very concerned about, okay, how does all that expertise affect the experience of an undergraduate here? And so part of helping our participants to think about the big picture here, I think, is to think about the interaction among teaching, research, and outreach.
Okay.
And one of the things that makes that work is that in the seminar, unlike practically any other more narrowly focused development opportunity we have here, the Kauffman seminar brings people from all over campus. I mean, you know, the art department, the Wisconsin Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory, the police department,
Yep.
You know, and one thing I found that was a bit of a surprise to me was that for a lot of people, the coffee break was as important a
Yep.
learning experience as, say, the presentations, because they got to talk to people whom they would never otherwise have met.
Very true.
And you often get this reaction, oh, I didn't know anybody did that. You know, a little bit like your experience with Lamar Billups and the community relations.
Yep.
You suddenly realize that, oh, yes, of course, we have to have somebody who thinks about these things.
You're right. Again, going back to the time that I participated in the seminar, of the 25 participants, I have stayed in contact in one way or another, or had an issue that I needed to discuss with one of my former classmates. I would say about 15 to 20 of those classmates that were in the seminar at the same time. We've networked or had an opportunity to reconnect over the years, either around the topic, or we've worked in the same unit, or we've found ourselves in a similar meeting on the same topic. So absolutely the knowledge base that you're gaining, but also the relationships that you're building, and the learning how to bring diverse thought into your decision making is paramount from the seminar.
Yeah. I think another big surprise for participants in the seminar is that they come to appreciate the commitment at this institution to shared governance.
Absolutely.
But they also realize that shared governance, in which faculty, academic staff, classified staff, and students all participate, takes time. It slows down decision making. We sometimes have presenters who say, boy, you know, it takes a long time to get a decision made here, because you have to consult all these people.
Correct.
But we talked about this morning in the Kauffman seminar. I think most people feel at the end of that consultation, we make better decisions, fewer mistakes, and we get a little bit more enthusiasm and buy-in as a result of bringing people into the process. At least that's my view, and I think a lot of people in the seminar come to that conclusion.
Well, I think also when you think about shared governance, and not just from the seminar, but when our students graduate from UW-Madison, they often think about how they were engaged in the processes here long after they've graduated. And some of the work that I do for the School of Ed, I reach out to alumni, we communicate with alumni, and we often ask about their experiences when they were a student, and they often talk about actually their opinion mattering. That they actually were a part of decisions and felt that shared governance really worked. And so it's nice to hear that you discussed that just today.
We had a representative on our panel from student government, from the Associated Students of Madison. Second-year student, studying political science and economics and educational policy, as a matter of fact. And very, very articulate and very involved, and obviously learning to be a leader from her experiences in student government.
You're absolutely correct. You kind of learn how to have a voice at the table, even though you might be the youngest
Yes.
or maybe the least experienced,
Yeah.
but you still have value because you do have a seat at the table. It does
Yeah.
make a big difference.
Yeah.
Big confidence builder
Yeah.
as they graduate and go into their first careers.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm going to shift gears once more and really think about how this time in education on campus, how we're really changing. We had interim Chancellor Ward, who is just retired now for the second time, Chancellor Blank finishing up her first year. We have a provost that has announced his retirement and the provost search going on. We have created D2P, in which that's in the hiring stage. The dean of the grad school and Chief Research Officer, if you will, has announced his retirement, and a new position is being created, a Vice Chancellor for Research, and we'll be searching for a new Dean of the Graduate School. With all of that leadership change, what do you think will be some of the issues facing that new team in this next year or so?
Well, I think first our leadership team will be facing the same issues as the leadership at lots of other public institutions these days. That is, continuing a continuing decline in public support, that is taxpayer support for public higher education, and an increasing reliance on philanthropic support, grant support, earned income, other sources of revenue. But also, I think that with so many new leaders, and you're right, and in addition to the ones you named, we have a new dean, I should say, in the College of Letters and Science, which is half the university in terms of enrollment.
Correct.
So we have a lot of new leaders, and I think that one of the first things they'll be confronting is how to maintain the strengths of this institution in areas like shared governance, academic freedom, outreach, the Wisconsin idea, while at the same time embracing the innovation that is going on in all of higher education these days. It's a big challenge, I think, for all these new leaders to identify just exactly what those strengths are, where they are manifested, how to strengthen and maintain them. At the same time, new leaders should be thinking about new ways of doing things, and somehow there's a balance there. There has to be a synergy between these two directions.
Okay, that's very helpful. So, as you're wrapping up the seminar for this year, what is the key takeaway that you'd like the participants to know as they prepare themselves for their next leadership position?
Well, I'm not sure there is just one.
Okay.
There are just so many issues, but to name one, I think one thing that our participants have seen this year has been that even in this very, very large institution with some 60, 70,000 people involved, one person with a good idea and energy and commitment can really make a difference. Let me give you an example of what I mean. It comes up in the seminar. Well, I can give you two examples. It comes up in the seminar every year.
Okay.
One is Susan Fisher, who's the Director of Financial Aid.
Yep.
When she became Director of Financial Aid after many years of working in that office, she was well aware that we didn't have nearly enough institutional support, scholarship support, for our undergraduates. If you looked at at our peers, the Big Ten and other leading public institutions, we were way low in the amount of institutional aid we could offer students on a per student basis.
Okay.
And Susan worked with Chancellor Martin and the foundation and lots of other people.
Yep.
It wasn't one person's sole effort, of course. But she worked with lots of other people to get the Great People Scholarship Program going. And Chancellor Martin introduced the Madison Initiative for Undergraduates.
Correct.
And together, those two things have made a very substantial difference in the amount of scholarship support we have for our undergraduates. We're not there yet, but we've come a long way. And ultimately, one person, Susan, served as a catalyst and an energizer and made that a campus issue. Let me give you another example.
That's a great example. And we in the School of Education have been able to benefit from several of those great people scholarships.
That's right.
To support the students.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you're right on with that one.
Yeah. I'll give you another example. Mark Buer, the now retired director of the University Research Park, recognized that the old Gisholt machine factory out on East Washington Avenue could become an incubator for high-tech development for breakthrough software companies.
Yep.
He realized that could be a neighborhood, with the right support. I mean, gigabit internet access and
Right.
and so on. But with the right support, that place could be refurbished and made into an incubator for software development in Madison, an extension of the University Research Park on the west side.
Correct.
And what I thought about that was, we've all driven down East Washington Avenue. We've all seen that eyesore of an old building.
We have.
But Mark Buer recognized what it could be and what it has become, in fact.
You're right. And the nice thing about that example is it extended the research park from more of a kind of commercial park-like
Right.
environment to a urban inner city
Right.
innovative campus. And
Right.
so not only did it attract new businesses spun off from the university, but it particularly looked for young entrepreneurs.
Right.
It took the next step from some of the business competitions we have on campus and some of the innovative competitions we have for our students.
Right.
So they can spin off and be in an environment that's young, hip, and up and coming.
Right.
So the vision of spin-off and taking advantage of the young talent from
Right.
the campus environment.
And if you have people like that, you've got coffee shops, you've got restaurants, you've got places to live. And I like to highlight for our seminar participants the difference that one person with some energy and commitment and a good idea, can make.
Those are excellent examples. Well, Dean Read, I really appreciate you taking a few moments to speak with me today to talk about your experience with the seminar and share, a little bit about how campus has been for you. And before we sign off, what would you say is next? What's next for Chuck Read?
Well, I want to continue the visits with the grandchildren. I want to we'll want to continue our bike riding as long as we can. We want to. I want to continue my new hobby of flying.
Very good.
Took up in retirement. I don't know. We'll see. I'm still learning what I want to be when I grow up.
It's great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Dawn.
And
My
thank
pleasure.
you, viewers, for being with us on SoE TV. Again, that's School of Education TV. Bye-bye.